Well, good Sunday morning. I'm Jaden Jefferson, and welcome to this week's Community Focus. I am now joined by Councilwoman Moline of Toledo City Council to talk about the City of Toledo's proposed 2023 budget. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Jaden.
Now, before we get into all the money aspect of everything, I want to first start out with it's 2023, it's a new year, and you're an at-large member of Toledo City Council. So give people an idea of what your goals may be, because you're not confined to just one district.
Correct. So, when I ran for office back in 2021, my goals included fiscal transparency, accountability, and public safety. So I would say, within those three core values that I hold dear, I've been working on all of that. And right now, as you mentioned, beginning of 2023, we're in budget time. So I'm really putting those skills to work for the citizens of Toledo. I like to use my background as a certified public accountant as I look at these budget numbers, and hopefully that does lend value to the citizens and to the city of Toledo as a whole, to make us better and stronger and more fiscally aware so we can spread our services even further for the citizens of Toledo.
And what would you say are some of your successes from 2022? Because obviously every year since COVID has just brought new challenges. So what would you say have been the successes?
Sure. 2022 was a year that we saw record income tax collections in the city of Toledo. And with that, you can also find some challenges. And so, I would say one of the successes I've had is I know I've always been a fierce fighter to make sure that we are spending money wisely on Toledo City Council, whether it's through monthly finance committee hearings or just the normal legislative process. I have a keen eye to ensure that we're not doing anything wasteful, because again, we want to ensure that our citizens are getting the services that they expect. And in my opinion, those services include ensuring there's a strong public safety presence in the city of Toledo. Roads are paved, our water is clean and safe and affordable. And so those are the three pillars that no other municipality in our area can address. And so those are the three buckets that I really focus on when I'm deliberating as a Toledo City Councilwoman.
And there was a Blade article that had came out, and you had expressed concern about the mayor's proposed budget, saying that it failed to meet sound accounting principles. So to viewers, what does that exactly mean?
So my main concern when I'm looking at this 2023 budget, and this is what I'm about to say, I've brought up for the last 2 years. And the main concern is that we're operating with a structural deficit. Now, what that means for a home budget, basically, we're bringing in less money than what we're spending. So we're spending a lot more money than the receipts we have, and that imbalance is very concerning. Right now, we're able to it doesn't really come to light because we have other sources of revenue, such as influx of federal funds that we've all heard about, this Biden money, and the city was no different. We received $180 million. And so we've used that to offset costs, but that will run out at some point. And so we need to be prepared for how do we address these ongoing costs that we've accumulated after that money is gone. We also use our fund balance, and we use our capital improvement fund to pay for general fund expenses, or at least it's budgeted for that. And again, those all combined equal about $47 million that we're using to balance our general fund budget. That's very concerning because, as I said, once those sources aren't there in the same way, what are we going to do? And there's really only two solutions. You either have layoffs or you have massive cuts, and that's not a fun solution for anybody. Or you have to raise new revenue, and that usually translates into raised taxes. And I know no citizen has the appetite for that as well. So that's my main concern whenever I'm looking at the budget. And again, I've been bringing up for the last 2 years, the administration has finally admitted that they do have one. And so I was hoping with that admission that they would actually have taken steps to reduce spending or to at least address it in some way. And I haven't seen that yet in this proposed budget, unfortunately.
And I think it's important for viewers to know that council must approve this budget by March 31st. So at this point, do you think that's going to happen?
I do. I do think that council will approve a budget. Budgets tell a story, that tells the story of your priorities as a city. I laid out what I really care about. And so again, that's the lens that I'm looking through with this budget. But a budget also shows what your future is thinking, and forward thinking. And unfortunately, this only goes 2 years out. And in a typical business or a typical organization, you would not accept only a 2-year projection because you need to look at the long-term fiscal health of an entity. So especially when you're making decisions as big as what we're making, this whole budget is almost $1 billion. We have a general fund budget of, $250,000, almost over $300 million. So that's a lot of taxpayer dollars that we're playing with right now. And I think when I talked about not sound accounting, you need to have projections more than just 2 years out if you're going to make wise decisions. And again, I think it speaks to my concern of what are we doing after this federal funds aren't here? What is the plan? And I think our citizens should be aware of that and should be concerned as well. I said before, structural deficits don't seem like a big deal at the moment because, they're being covered, but they become real deficits. And I would hate for our city to be in a position where the state would have to come in or other people would have to bail us out in order to keep basic operations of, police and fire and water and roads still running.
And this is something that you had just talked about, the long term. What is the city going to look like years from now? And this is actually something that viewers can find on the City of Toledo's website. It says that it's, quote, susceptible to economic conditions, especially when the city is heavily reliant on the manufacturing industry. So what does that indicate to you?
I'm so glad you brought that up because the way the city is structured, the way we receive revenue is all based on income taxes. So we absolutely need a strong manufacturing base. We need work and we need workers to be working within our city to be able to contribute those income taxes so we can provide the services as the city of Toledo. So as you bring that up, we do need to make sure that outside of even just manufacturing, we're diversifying our economy for other workers and other types of industries in our city so that we can guarantee that we still have that revenue source of constant income coming through. We need bold ideas. We need people to invest in our city. We need economic development here, but we need good jobs here as well. I just recently saw that the median income is $38,000. We need to raise that up. We need good working jobs, good working conditions within the city of Toledo, so our city and the city of Toledo itself can thrive.
And what do you think it's going to take to create a stable budget down the road to prevent further deficit issues in the city of Toledo?
It's going to take a lot of tough choices, but I think the longer you wait, the tougher they're going to be. And also, we need a permanent finance director. That's something that we have not had. We're almost going on 3 years without a permanent finance director. I personally would like to see a CPA fulfill that position because they would be licensed. They'd be bound by ethical requirements that I think are necessary for that important position. And so I think that's the first step. And we have to agree on the facts. And I think right now we're in this discussion where we almost don't even agree on the facts of what a budget should be and what it should look like and what proper accounting is while you're dealing with a budget. So I would say those are the two very basic first steps that need to happen as we look long term, but also short term, just right now in this budget, that those are two solutions that need to happen immediately.
So there are definitely a lot of conversations that are going to need to happen. And of course, as you mentioned, maybe some tough conversations as well. So Toledo City Councilwoman at large, Katie Moline, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jaden, and keep doing what you're doing. I'm so happy that you're bringing voice to city government and so many important issues in our region.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for the show. And that's this week's Community Focus. Have a great Sunday.